I was pulled into the office of HR and they gave me hell about my body type. They told me that I needed to cut my hair, that I should get a boob job, that I need to wear different clothes, I needed to lose weight, like all of these things. They had a lot of things to say about my physical presence.
Hey, Nicole, what do you get when a former corporate CEO and a do-gooding executive walk into a recording studio?
Well, Erin, nothing, because the two of us are usually on my couch or Zoom, because wine.
You get a podcast created for Gen X women who are bought into the corporate world, but fed up with the BS.
I know. It's how to thrive the 9 to 5 or 6 or 7.
It's career therapy. It's comedy. It's definitely full on authenticity. Basically, we give you tangible strategies to rise in your career without compromising everything else.
Because work doesn't have to suck.
Just the two of us. We can make it if we try. Just the two of us. You and I, and hundreds of listeners too. And
that was, I did not know we were recording, by the way.
I didn't either. I just decided to hit it because you know what? Sometimes we need to be like 1,000% authentic, and nobody needs 30 seconds to plan out our episode.
No, also like we got on camera and I was just admiring your new backdrop, your new office, the cool headset. And I was like, you look so hip. And I look like somebody who's recording from a fucking prison. It's such like the dark background. I'm like still in my coat because I'm cold in the attic. Like my hair is all put back. I'm just like, yeah, I mean.
The witness protection program.
From the witness protection program version. And you're in like the hip, cool version. Like I need to up my game on this podcast background. So please, like, we've got one of these things doesn't look like the other going on here. It's fine.
You know how much it makes me uncomfortable to feel like I'm perfect, right? Like, you know that I've just, when you say that, I just want to turn around and like smash like a couple shelves because
look, I'm jealous of your symmetry. You have beautiful symmetry going on. Okay. There's like the shelves are kind of even behind you. Things look nice. It's not too visually distracting.
Yeah.
I think it looks cool. I'm a little bit jealous. Just go with it. It's fine. Like,
well, it's also because my profession in part is giving virtual workshops and talks. And so spending a little time on the symmetry.
Right. And while mine is crushing,
it's a business write-off.
Right. Mine's crushing people's souls. So, it's fine. Like you can embrace spring and summer and fall. And this is like, this is Hades down here. So fine.
That is kind of your mission, crushing people's souls.
My mission. I do try to. I just crush souls now and then. I have to say, though, I did see that in person on Sunday because 2 Easters. I don't love Easter enough to do it once, but I get to do Greekster with you. So that was amazing. And
it was actually, so good having you.
It was so good being there. Like I rolled in with like a pie and a bottle of Prosecco. And I look at Yaya, like, Manny's aunt. And I'm just like, we're getting drunk today. And she immediately is like, oh shit. It's like, I remember this from last year. My favorite part is the egg game. Now you have to describe this because I can't describe it.
One of the traditions. So Greek Easter, if you're not aware, same beliefs, different calendar is the best way to understand it.
Most
same beliefs as He died, then he rose, and the only difference is Greek Orthodox is all about like nothing changes. So the Orthodox means it's the same tradition as forever. And way back when they used to follow a different calendar called the Julian calendar. And so it's actually the same calendar that informs Passover. And so the Greek Easter is at minimum, it sometimes does fall on the same day, or it's always after. It's never before. And it's up to 5 weeks after. So this year it was 1 week after. So one of the traditions is, first of all, they dye all their eggs red, blood of Christ.
Right. The blood of Christ, right? You guys are keeping it real. You're not doing the pastels. You're not doing unicorns. You're not doing sparklies. It's just straight red. And that shit was like, literally, you looked like your hands were bleeding after touching this.
Well, so here's the thing. So the eggs is also a family tradition. So when my father-in-law was still with us, he used to have, step back, my husband's grandparents used to have an egg farm. Did you know this?
I did not know this.
And they had like 40,000 chickens in Colchester, Connecticut. Like crazy.
I think I kind of knew this, but didn't
Crazy.
really like pick up on it. Okay, Colchester Cricket, egg farm, 40,000 chickens, Greeks.
So they have always supplied the eggs. And then his father used to have an egg business. And so he kind of took over and used to just get the eggs for them every year. And then the church, they'll dye them there. And when you go to service, you get your eggs. Well, my father-in-law passed last year. And so we kind of took on the tradition. So Manny procures the eggs. And then his cousin Maria, because she's a saint, has
Truly.
volunteered and stepped up to take over. Our family takes over the egg dyeing, which we started, I think it was just last year. And so, it traditionally it's called for 750 eggs to be dyed. I'm very proud of Maria. She pushed back and finally said, like, that's too much because, basically, all the old ladies would think they need them. And then, they end up like in the trash somewhere. So
of course, nobody's eating those eggs. Like
we did like 550 this year.
And it was at the church, right? Like it's at the church.
We do it at the church. Yeah. We do it in their big industrial sized kitchen. So the first Wednesday night, they boiled them, which Manny and Maria and Billy, our family did. And then the next night, a bunch of us went and did the dyeing. Well, we don't, though, procure the dye. And it's this special dye, Greek dye, super highly concentrated to make them so red.
It's not from Walmart.
Not from Walmart. No.
These are not pink, people. They are red. Like
they're
full
straight
on red.
Well, this year, something was up with the dye. It was a different dye the guy got, which,
it was cheap dye.
He got what was available. There's like one option.
Did you go to Amazon instead of New York City? Is that what happened?
I don't know. It was so the funniest part. So as we dye these eggs, we actually had a bunch of issues at the beginning. They were hot pink and they were rubbing off, and we got them redder, but they rubbed off on everybody's hands. So anyway, so the tradition is that every person has an egg, and then you basically spar with people. So you have you go around and challenge people with your egg, and you sort of try, you either stand still or you can go at them or whatever technique. And then whoever's cracks, because always one will crack and one won't, is out. And that, next person keeps going. And it's just bragging rights. It's like, you don't win anything. But this year, couple of things. One, with our brand new sort of remodel, and these terribly like dyed eggs that came off on your fingers. I was like, get everybody out of the freaking house, gave everybody a paper towel. Like, and can I tell you, we still have a little pink stain on our new rug.
No, you don't. From what?
It's that.
So what do you mean from what?
I mean, who brought in the eggs?
Probably somebody had it on their fingers.
Oh my God.
Probably a kid or something.
Of course, it was probably me. No, oh my God, you're right. Because it did get everywhere. Even with the paper towels, it got everywhere. And me and Billy, so Maria's husband, Billy, and I have we have a good relationship. Like we're bonded now because of the way they got their house last Easter. And I was sort of egging them on and sort of inspired Billy to go across with the Greek food and make the secret offer on the house. So forever we are bonded. But when we sparred, Billy's egg literally exploded.
Oh my God. It was hilarious.
By the way, your idea of doing it as a bracket is much fairer. And this is going to be my new sports ball for next year. It's going to be the Easter egg competition with the bracket. I'm going to win it. And that's going to be my sports ball. I'm all about the cultural sports ball. You guys, I don't care if you're not Greek. I don't care if you don't like Easter. Get yourself some eggs and have an egg smash competition on Easter. It is the most fun activity ever. You could turn it into a chase, smashing eggs boiled. It's so much fun. The adults were into this as much as the kids. I'm telling you, it's the new tradition that everybody needs to take up. And it was amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for 2 Easters because I really love Easter. And Easter part 2 this year was amazing. And I really think possibly have to choose your Easter over my family when they fall on the same day. I'm just going with that. I also want you to know that since this is an episode that revolves somewhat about food, I'm eating matzah to go along with that said Julian calendar because I do love me some matzah, and Passover just happened. Therefore, the matzah is on sale.
You're the day after. Get the Greek Easter candy, the matzah.
ShopRite had all that shit at the forefront, and I was like, "Yup, I'll be taking that Easter candy. I'll be taking that Passover matzah. I'll be like, I'm ready.
I don't think I've ever had matzah.
Oh, girl, you're missing out. I'm going to get you some unleavened
Is it like
bread.
in between like a cracker and a piece of bread?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And you can get it salty. You can get it like egg. It is a perfect transport vehicle for many devices, including, I think, hummus. I don't know. I might be breaking some kosher rules here. I'm not sure. Also, peanut butter. Also, you can make very nifty, like if you're into making things like English muffin pizzas, which I might like, you can make matzah pizzas.
Pizza.
Adorable. They have a lot of integrity and they're quite delicious. And I believe that everyone should eat matzah. And they're also really cheap. You're welcome. So, girl, here we are today. I'm so happy. I haven't recorded with you in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give us a scoop on how's work before we get into. We do have a theme. We have a theme. Talk about.
To be honest, like I'm surviving. I'm still thriving. Like I'm in a moment of change, to be honest. And we're going through a lot. And I feel like I'm still learning. I'm still enjoying myself. It is interesting. I think we should do an episode on this, but like I have learned. I feel like I thought my most important skill coming to this job was being a utilities economist, being the fact that like this is Utilities Regulatory Authority. In fact, I think it's that I had come from a background of like organizational development, like and organizations that develop over time purposefully. State government, not that. I say we table that
Opportunity.
Potentially have a discussion about organizational development organizations that don't traditionally have that. I think people have good intentions, but like if you don't have a culture of it, or you don't have the systems for it, or you don't have the structures for it, or how do you do it in a place where it does not exist? Like, oh boy, I have some interesting thoughts. I also have learned some things about working with people. So many thoughts. I just want to mention that I have realized that in managing people, I manage lots of people, some really smart people. And some of them I had managed fully. Some of them were just administratively. I have realized that there are professions in the world that are entirely designed around being the rightest person. Like in order for you to exist, you have to be the right person. So, hey, lawyers, like you're right and somebody else is wrong. Doctors, they're right or else you're dead. Like
binary,
or you don't challenge their opinion, right? They have to be the rightest person in the room or else they are invalidated. Nurse, rightest person in the room, right? It creates a really unique work environment when you have to manage a bunch of people whose entire professional existence exists on being right.
Yeah. Collaboration isn't like top of the value wheel. Oh, you gave a little sorority snap or something?
Sorority snap. I learned that one in the yoga class when I was the only person clapping at the end of the class. Everybody's all namaste and shit and like this. And I'm like, great class, people. Good job. Like, awesome job. Yeah, no. Whoop. I was like, woo, woo. And everybody's like, all zen-like and shit. Like sorority snap. I just learned that one. I was very excited about that. That's very me. That might be a full topic we can explore. I would like to, but I just thought a bunch of people might laugh about that. Because if you work with auditors or you are one, or you work with lawyers or you are doctors, there are so many professions like this where like
that's interesting.
You are right or you're out. And it not only is it collaboration, but it also impacts risk. Like there are some environments where, you just want to mitigate risk to no end, to the point where, again, it's hard to create change or it's hard to do anything different. That may or may not be like the case for everybody. And it's certainly not the case for me every day. But I've just been having these epiphanies about like, what are some of the endemic challenges? And of course, I'm a process person. So I'm like, how do we process re-engineer stuff to make it work better? And I thought to myself, part of this is just simply that it comes down to like,
like it's Jeopardy. It's like Jeopardy. Like there's a
It's like musical
There's
chairs.
an answer and a question.
Yeah. Or musical chairs, right? Like they keep taking the chairs away. Everybody's out until one is left.
That process of elimination rightness. What could possibly go wrong there?
We're going to call it management by musical chairs. Like I'm going to duck, duck, goose, or like duck, duck, goose. I mean, it just is just as useful. So yeah, so this is a challenge for me. And another challenge I think that I'm going to want to talk about over the coming weeks is the fact that my boss is going to be out for an extended period of time. And we're in a period of radical change and a lot of work. And like, how do you operate in an environment where you're stepping in for someone temporarily and you have a job and then you're also taking on the big job? How are you true to the things that you care about and the way that you manage and the way that you see things? And potentially it's long enough that like you can leave an impression. Like, to what degree do you try to leave your mark? To what degree do you carry on the torch? How do you do this well? How do you make it so that everybody is successful here? Like the team is successful and not feeling abandoned in their absence. How are you doing the job that's right for you and others? How are you making it so that you're making life easier for your senior executive, your boss, who is going to come back? Some people have the wrong mindset about this. I am always someone who believes that it's usually, there are some exceptions, but who really, really believes that, it is a sacred duty in the work environment to try to make the lives of your well-meaning superiors easier. Like it's part of what we do as subordinates, right? Now, not everybody deserves that or creates an environment of that. But like, this is an environment where I want him to feel comfortable leaving. I want him to focus on his health and wellness. I want him to be able to come back seamlessly, not to 150 emails. But that means a complete reengineering of culture where people are highly dependent on him for a lot of things, right? How do you manage this?
How do you do that without pissing people off and
undermining people, creating chaos, creating divisions? You can silo people accidentally. So I'm working on that right now, and I don't know. I think we've made a little bit of progress. There's also a lot of staff transition going on, so it's a really exciting time, and I think I might be able to spread my wings a little bit. But I'm also nervous because I just have a lot going on in my life, and so I'm up for the challenge, but I also feel like I might need some coaching over the couple of weeks.
I was gonna say I think that'll be a good one. Maybe next record too. We just do some almost like real-time coaching, tangible. Like here are some of the situations. Because my first, of course, thought is, being uber authentic and transparent about what you're doing, right? To that team instead of trying to covertly do it. But
be like, oh, let me secretly try to change some shit on you.
But that's sort of nebulous. Like it'd be fun to kind of talk through a few of the situations because I think you're right. I think our listeners deal with this in different forms and fashion, whether it's a peer that they're taking over because they're out on maternity leave or medical leave or even a long vacation, or it's especially at the executive levels, you get the old interim status.
Oh,
where,
totally.
maybe you're going to be in it forever, maybe you're not. I mean, that happens all the time.
You have great experience. Your experience lends itself to this conversation. This is obviously not as big as that, but I think you're right. I think this resonates on a lot of levels. And I think one of the major questions is intent. Like you walk into this with, what is your intent? Like, how do you want to show up? What is it? What does it mean in that environment, in that organization? And it's going to be different for everybody.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to go in like real eyes wide open. I've had a lot of conversations and, I'm learning a lot. Like the fact of the matter is like, while sometimes I feel like I'm surrounded by people who like are the rightest of the right people, I have been so humbled in this job more than any job I've ever had. And I've had some really hard jobs. This is probably the hardest job I've ever had because the learning curve is so steep. And it's complicated and it's fast, but it also feels less risky despite all those things. And maybe that's why I feel so excited to take on the next couple of weeks, possibly months.
Yeah. Feels a little safer environment.
It feels like people are rooting for me, not rooting against me.
Oh, yeah.
Totally different experience than I've ever had.
Yeah. That's awesome.
People want me to do well. I'm not going to say everybody is totally bought in, but no one's rooting against me outwardly. That's
That's new for you.
I say that with, I think, some very interesting conversation in the next weeks. So that is where I am, but not bad.
I'm glad.
Just
I'm glad that you have this opportunity and challenge. Obviously not glad that your boss is going through the health issues, but I think what I love the most, you've always been very reflective person. That's part of the reason I wanted to do the podcast. Like, I don't think you could be a podcast person, host, guest, whatever, if you aren't just constantly reflective and,
self-effacing, Spanish meltdown.
Yeah, but I feel like you're reflective in a totally different way, not in the doing, but in the leading and the not the being right. You're not sitting on that side of the table of being right and working the hardest. And you're on the side of like, how do I actually lead and make things better?
Oh, first of all, like I see myself going down those paths and I'm like, pulling myself in. And I will credit the podcast over the last several years of helping me like just be a better human. Like we laugh at like the virtual couch and it's like work therapy and it's actually worked for me. Like this has actually been part of what has helped me, face these things with a lot more humility and sensibility and just like self-compassion
and flexibility
that flexibility is really boom, word drop. Love that. Yeah. So that's why I'm like really happy to be here tonight too, because I just, now this is like good matzah. I freaking crave this space with you to, talk through the things. Like it's an outlet. Definitely. So thank you also listeners, but so thinking about a lot of interesting things today. I wanted to, so a topic I brought up to you just like 2 seconds ago. It had to do with something.
It was like 2 hours ago.
Well, okay, it was like 2
because I did some research.
Oh, you did some research. Okay, well, do you mind if I just drop it? Do you mind if I just drop it?
Yeah. Let's talk about it.
So,
because I did the research not because I wanted to come here sounding smart, but because I was like, oh shit, like this has never really been top of mind for me, and I want to understand as quick as I can some of the data and the perspective, right? And talk through it. So I read some articles and it's very interesting. It'll be interesting too to see what our listeners and their feedback. I mean, it's a new topic for me, but a really important one.
So the topic du jour is essentially fatphobia. So the bias against people of size in the workplace. Now, all right, all right, skinny bitches out there ain't got to worry about this stuff, but some people know. So, no, I mean, I have a personal story with this. You probably remember when I was describing early on my days in my former job, when I first got the position offered to me, and you remember that it was kind of a nightmare of an offer process. We should have known. One of the things that was said to me was that, I was pulled into the office of HR and they gave me hell about my body type. They told me that I needed to cut my hair, that I should get a boob job, that I needed to wear different clothes, I needed to lose weight, like all of these things. They had a lot of things to say about my physical presence. And, I kind of like laughed it off and waited for those people to get fired, which they eventually did. But, it always lingered because I will admit that there were no people that in the senior executive levels of the newly reformed company that were not like trim and fit, like
including men.
Yes. It was across the board. There was a certain style, like the women had like short, smart bobs and they were trim figured, like naturally trim figured. The men were like, there was a lot of Europeans that had a very sort of European figure to them. The 2 CEOs ago he's the one that I worked for directly. He was like a fitness fanatic. Like he would get up at 4 a.m. He would, he was on the treadmill every day. He never ate. Like you never saw this guy eat. I think he had like a true eating disorder. He was at one time, I remember telling the story, like we were at dinner one time and he was basically policing what people were eating and he was drinking. He was a drinker. It's like,
of course, he drank his calories.
Yes, very into his wine collection, but he was kind of policing what people are eating. And so I come from like a very recent, like 10 years of really feeling like noticing that
There's a bias.
there was a bias, or there seemed to be a correlation, at least in that company, of people who looked a certain way and had success. Now, I'm not going to say that was 100%, but certainly in the senior leadership, I'm like,
And it wasn't like a Seinfeld episode when you find out they're all related, right? Remember the episode when they were so mad that all the women that worked at the diner had big boobs? And then they found out that they're all from like the same family.
Definitely not. Definitely not. But I will say that while I am, maybe have an average body type, I certainly, I used to think it had to do with fashion, like the way people dress, like, they
their
dress,
executive presence in terms of,
yeah,
how expensive their suits were or whatever.
they had a sense of style. They, their hair was always in a certain way. And of course, I'm the opposite. I am me, like big earrings. I wear a lot of like velour. I like very ridiculous heels. I wear big hair, or I'm wearing yoga pants, like whatever. I always thought it was a style thing. Like they know how to present themselves. And it was only sort of as I was recently thinking about this, was thinking how there was no way in the senior leadership. And I'm not talking about a handful of people. I'm talking about several dozen people that I met across multiple companies that all looked a certain way, including all of the other foundation directors, were all women who were young and beautiful. One was a former model in Brazil. The other one could have been a former model in Mexico. Like they were all gorgeous, like women. And at the parent company, they had like uniforms. Like the women wore uniforms. They wore these weird outfits that looked like elf. I think it was supposed to be like green, something like green symbolic. But we would like make fun of them. They ran around in these like elf costumes, and they all had a certain look to them. Now, okay, it's Europe, it's different. But, that culture was pervasive. And I remember that from my first day up until the day I left. And I don't think this is unusual. I may have misinterpreted it, but I don't think it's unusual.
Well, it's not. It's
Apparently
not.
it's not.
So, I mean, in like my, quick 45 minutes of kind of diving into this topic, because like I said, I was like, oh my goodness, I hadn't really thought of this. It's not just you. So let me tell you and our listeners a few of the things that I found, and a couple of them will blow your mind, I think. First of all, it's gotten worse. So Harvard Business Review, HBR said that implicit weight bias, so obviously not being overt about it, but implicit weight bias, they found has increased by 40% between 2004 and 2010. So that's a little while ago, but my guess is the curve. And, one of the things they noted was this is actually in contrast to the observed explicit. So basically people are talking like they're not as biased, or in this fat phobia, if you will.
Bullshit.
But actually inside they've gotten worse. So that was one stat. Another was that they said that a study found that fat employees, I hate even saying that word, but however they described it, right?
It's hard to, like people of a certain size and shape and weight. Yeah.
Just reading exactly what they said, are 12 times more likely to report unfair treatment at work. 12 times, 1,200%.
Unbelievable.
This is the one that actually like absolutely pissed me off and blew my mind. Okay, you ready for this one? This is why I asked you about the men.
Yep.
So there's also data that shows that it says obese and overweight men, ready for this, were 1.46 times more likely to be placed in professional jobs and had 13.9% higher monthly wages than their normal weight counterparts.
Come on.
In contrast, obese and overweight women were 0.33 times, so less likely to have service jobs, earned 9% lower monthly wages, and were half as likely. So this Fatphobia is not only an issue, but it's of course it's double biased because it's impacting women much more than others. And there was a lot more data. There's all kinds of things around, promotions and things like that. The other thing that stood out to me, and I think for all of our listeners, there's probably a lot of them since I come from the healthcare space that either run wellness programs or even do this as part of the EAP, not their formal job. One of the things I found most interesting is that, with this wellness sort of being, this became really big in healthcare benefits world.
Oh yeah, like
BMI testing, right? Lower premiums. Like
this was a requirement for me.
This was huge about 10 years ago.
Yep.
This started, right?
Yep.
And what researchers have found, highly credible sources have found, is that by doing this and making it mandatory, your impacts on these folks that are overweight is actually worse. So overall, your mental health impacts and the overall morbidity and all the factors, you actually have negative consequences that go with these programs. Especially what they said was when you really focus not on just overall health, like a holistic, right? Mental, spiritual, all. Right. But when you really focus on things like weight loss, fitness contests, tracking, all of that, has a massively negative overall consequence.
It's so funny you say that because, I'm not just a hater to hate, and especially of all things athletics, but I always had a negative feeling about all of these weird fitness competitions that became very popular in corporate America. The step challenges and the this and the that. And some people loved them. They were a way to create community. I was always distrustful of them. And I think part of it was because it did feel like a element of shaming. And the piece that I found interesting was that I understand that New York, always on like the cutting edge of things, is thinking about making this a protected class. Now, that's a step. That's another step. And I'm not entirely sure, even though, I'm not a lawyer, but I feel like I play one daily. I'm not sure how I think about that or if it will truly improve the situation or make it worse, but I thought it was.
Well, I read about that.
You did?
Maybe not the protected class, but a spin on that. So one of the things I read, this is from LinkedIn News. I think it's a couple years old, so it could have changed. But what they said is actually there's only one state where it's protected, and what they say where it's protected against discrimination. In all the other 49 states, and that one state is my home state of Michigan.
Really?
Little sorority snap for that. But it says in 49 states in this country, it's legally allowed for employers to discriminate based on weight.
I think it's a real thing.
Like nobody gets sued if like they pick up your notes and you had two candidates and your notes say hired this one because they're thinner. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Or even just looks the part, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to say that like these things haven't crossed my mind before. I hire a lot of people. We all have implicit bias. Part of the reason why I'm talking about it, because it's very easy to get caught up.
None of us are perfect. Nicole, what are you doing over there?
I'm finally getting up off the virtual couch and making some career moves, just like you told me. And I came across your authenticity playbook.
Yeah, I forgot to tell you about it. This authenticity playbook I've had for a long time, and it's actually the most downloaded resource I have. It's basically 10 quote unquote plays, authenticity plays that you can make at work to stand out and get promoted and use authenticity as your strategy, your secret weapon.
Now, I'm really going to take this to heart because despite all the sports references, I know that it's full of your awesome and your authenticity, and it probably is going to help me go far or go home or go big or whatever the sports reference is.
All the things. So listeners, if you also want the authenticity playbook, you can go to beauthenticinc.com/playbook and you can make career moves like Nicole.
Whoop, whoop, Heisman! So I recently, look, this is a very real thing for Gen X women in particular. We're all starting to go through changes, are going through changes. And I don't know about anybody else, but, all the things your mother told you are basically true. Like, weight, life, body, hormones, like it may or may not entirely be in control. So I went to the doctor recently, like recently being yesterday, and had a physical for one of these required wellness programs. The entire physical was spent talking about one, my apparently high cholesterol out of nowhere. Okay, maybe it's the donuts. Maybe it's just, I don't fucking know. And my weight and how I'm overweight. I will say that on a podcast to all of you thousands of people, how I'm technically overweight.
I'm still not fearful of you, just so you know.
I understand numbers. I also feel like I've made a lot of positive changes in my life, and I feel tremendous.
Overall wellness.
Overall wellness. Feel physically better than I expected to at this age, and I'm, doing more, whatever.
And, mentally,
and
which
mentally.
they don't focus on.
But like looking at the numbers, looking at like the cholesterol, and then looking at the numbers for the weight, like so the entire conversation then revolved around. And I didn't know from time to time if they were talking about how to impact my cholesterol or how to impact my weight, because those two things became very like intertwined in the conversation. And some of the things that were suggested to me, these are by like modern medical professionals, people I trust, good people who apparently like, medicine is basically equated with pharmaceuticals sometimes. I get that. So they show me a picture of like a nutritional plate, like a plate of food.
No.
I just laughing. I was like, wait, is that the real size? And I was like, is that what's on it? I was like, that's a fucking snack. She was like, well, I try to eat 1,000 calories a day. I was like, bitch, chewing my fingernails is more than 1,000 calories. 1,000 calories is
anorexia. Sorry. No way.
So, okay. So there's that. And I was like, I don't believe you. Okay. So maybe 1,200, but guess what?
And so not appropriate to compare herself to you. But anyway.
I think she was trying to have a moment to like help me understand.
Yep.
As I'm looking at the picture of the nutritional plate that I,
you wanted to eat.
Right. I was like, it made me hungry looking at it. So the next thing they tell me is that, like they're giving me 6 months to make changes. Now, look, I am someone who's made a lot of changes in my life, but I'm one person by myself. Like, I admit that some of my relationship with food maybe has changed being alone. Like maybe I'm just eating differently or whatever. Like there's probably things that could be done, but I'm not. And I do love to cook, but I'm not crazy, right? So she said to me, she goes, well, whatever you did now, you can't do that anymore. You have to change, So it was like all this stuff about eating differently, none of which sounded entirely logical or doable. So I'm like thinking about. And I'm like, I'm not dumb. I know a little bit about nutrition. And I was just like, so I'm just sitting there just like incredulous. And then she's like, okay, it's 6 months. And if you haven't lost basically 30 pounds and gotten your cholesterol down to like the mid hundreds, we're going to put you on medication. I was like, oh, these statins? She was like, no, she's like statins, but also a weight loss drug. And I'm like, no, like Ozempic, like that everybody is asking for and taking. And she's like, well, isn't that why you're here? Everybody's here to get Ozempic. I was like, oh, no, I'm here for a physical. This is literally yesterday in my doctor's office. So,
and that's what they were saying in these articles, that the healthcare professional is that is actually the place where there's the biggest problem for not just this reason. There's also evidence that shows they don't care for people that are larger for all different reasons. They don't do as many tests. They don't do like all kinds of like they are part of the root cause of the problem.
I could have had my foot falling off. And the assumption was that I was there to get weight loss drugs. Now, I understand that it has been a weird time for medicine. I understand that the world right now is dominated by discussions of things like weight loss as we're watching these quote miracles happen with like reality TV stars. I did not think People magazine was going to take over more than the waiting room of the office. I felt like I had walked into some version of like the People magazine version of like primary care.
I feel it's like the 1990s or whatever when opioids started and like or something like that. I didn't even that luckily I didn't even know was going on, and I didn't know this is going on, so just stay out of it. But because something bad probably can't come of this latest trend.
So it's interesting because I walk around being not a I don't want to say that I'm obese, but I am a bigger person and I'm taller, I'm bigger, I'm stronger. I'm built like a shit brick house, like like a Sicilian peasant. Like it is what it is, right?
Well, and one of the things I've always loved about you is how much you embrace it. Right. It doesn't mean you're not perfect, that you don't have your days, but like, and you've said this on the podcast, even I think it was in episode 1 where you're like, people think I'm like have an issue with my weight, and I don't.
And I don't.
Right. Like, sorry to be the like 0.001% of what, but that's
People
what's
think they want me to have body issues, but I don't.
But I don't.
So I said to the woman, I was like, oh, by the way, like my side hustle is as a nude model. The woman's not. So I did. I hit the floor. She was like, I'm sorry. I was like, I'm not here for the drugs, lady. I was like, can you tap my knee? Make sure I got reflected. I get the fuck out of here. Don't you know I left and went to the wine shop across the street too? I was like, oh, fuck these bitches. I was like, mama needs a drink now. I bought me some good whiskey. I bought a couple bottles of wine. I was like, yup, successful day at the doctor's.
Oh my God.
But it goes to this conversation about weight in the workplace, right?
Mm-hmm.
That phobia, weight in the workplace, weight in life. I know and it's on everybody's mind. I mean, look at like Mindy Kaling at the Oscars. I mean, she's always been somebody who's had a beautiful natural physique. And then she shows up, looking like she lost a human in, what is a couple of months postpartum. Hey, great for you. But like, if that is what the average person is expected to be and do, like these kinds of things are going to have translate into the workplace. So they already exist. Now we see everybody with these miracle drugs. We're going to start having expectations about what people who take care of themselves do look like. Worse.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. It's and
going to be tied to our expectations.
I feel like I did an accidental, highly credible survey on how people feel about this issue.
Okay.
When I did my only Instagram reel that's gone viral. Do you remember?
I do.
Did I tell you that yet? Which was, for our listeners, back after the Grammys, when Lizzo gave her speech, and she was just super authentic and obviously talking about, for all of my big friends, and just embracing who she was. And I'm all about authenticity. I loved it. So I quickly recorded a reel kind of next to her clip, sort of cheering her on. It was, I literally did it in like 5 hot seconds, put it out there, and it went viral. And of course, quick indoctrination, how do things go viral? Well, they're probably either really freaking funny or they're really freaking controversial. And mine was not the first thing. And and so what ensued and why it got so much traction. And honestly, I was deleting comments left and right because I was like, I don't need this shit. Like, I don't need and it actually slowed the virality down when I started to moderate. But I would say there was, half the people that responded were so evil, mean about, big people, lazy, diabetes, don't you, da-da-da-da. And I'm thinking, this girl, first of all, works out more than anybody. Can you imagine how much calories she burns, like doing what she does in the day? And then the other half, of course, were the people running to defend and talk about how it's not indicative of health completely and all this stuff. So I feel like when that happened, it's like, Jesus, if you want to know, it's the world out there is very 50-50 on this topic.
Yeah. It's so strange because, and I've said this right from the beginning of the original podcast, was that like, I grew up in a very diverse environment where, though from an urban environment, I do think there's, disequal access to healthcare and information. Big was beautiful. Like that is just like the standards of beauty were different. And I didn't encounter, serious eating disorders, of which I am highly sensitive, like whether it's binge eating or anorexia or bulimia, like these are real sicknesses. I did not encounter that in college, but it was literally everybody. Like, I think I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 roommates. Cause we lived at Yale and like different setups, quads, doubles, things like that. Something like out of my like 10 roommates over time, 8 of them had anorexia and or bulimia.
Oh my God.
I didn't even know what it was.
Wow.
I did not even know really what it was. I got schooled in it really quick. So, and there was definitely a class at Yale of, skinny and beautiful and not, right? And I was very much in the like ethnic, not beautiful, not rich, not interventionist kind of class. So it became very real for me very early on. And I think in the workplace, this is something that, I don't know what the answer is. I do know that I have had multiple experiences with it, and I continue to have experiences with it in my daily life. I don't know if I always cope with it well. I admit I had a bit of a malaise yesterday because, I am worried about the cholesterol issue. Like, I do feel like I need to do something about that. I didn't feel like I walked out of there with a lot of help or support or clarity. I don't like the idea that, though, that on the weight side, like, something needs to be fixed or like an assumption that I'm not doing something right. Like some of it could be genetics. Some of it could be
a lot of it. I mean, that's the thing with weight. So much of it is predetermined, based on your genetics, your upbringing. Like it's not all discipline.
Right.
Period. End of story.
Right. But I think another, a challenge point to this is like, the big is beautiful, movement. It's good, like healthy. We should all accept ourselves, as we are. Like that is great. I also think that people deserve to have good, up-to-date information about health and nutrition if they want it, without having to go spend $1 million fucking dollars going to Jenny Craig or getting some drug or going to some homeopathic doctor. Like part of it is that this stuff should be normalized. And it's not. Like access to good, healthy food, like organic meats or whatever, like hard to get. Like, so you go to poor places and people aren't healthy. Gee, I wonder why.
Especially right now with inflation. Like, you can't even get a bag of French fries for less than $6, let alone organic meat,
organic meat, right? Or fresh chicken or vegetables or something, right? Like, it's not actually in America. It is not actually easy to eat healthy. It takes a lot of time, a lot of consideration, a lot of effort, and a lot of money. Like we don't live, like when I lived in the Middle East, everybody had a housekeeper who cooked for them. Everybody. So, anybody with a job had someone who did their cooking. You know what? Like if I had a chef every day,
oh God, I'd be so skinny.
I'd probably eat so well, so well, right? So some of this is also like cultural and socioeconomic. Some of it is like part of our cultural class. Like we have to recognize that like being healthy in this country is actually hard. It's hard to do. It is not easy for everybody. Yeah. So like in some ways, like we aren't just being biased against people because of their weight or health or disability. We're actually demonstrating a version of class bias. We are implicitly biased of people of their
double bias.
Right. I'm not saying every person who is sizable I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that there is an implicit correlation there, particularly in the workplace. Yeah. And I think we need to be I think that is something we need to be aware of because it is not simply that we don't like fat people, we're uncomfortable, it makes us uncomfortable. Yeah. It's that we assume things about those kinds of people and how they got there without really understanding the realities of people's lives.
Yeah.
And, their access to healthcare. Also historic, right? Just because you have a good job now and a good place, good benefits, doesn't mean you had that for the last 50 years of your life. I can speak to that, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you didn't grow up with great healthcare. Like, you don't freaking know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I got. I mean, that was the first thing I got with all this was, the first thing is awareness. Like you said, whether you're in a leadership position, you are the person that is concerned about fatphobia, you are a colleague, a peer, just being aware that there is this other bias, right? That we don't talk much about. And fighting against that, right? Because that's what bias you have to be aware of it first. I think the wellness program thing is a big thing, and not everybody is in a place to influence that. But I would bet that several of our listeners, I hope this is a little bit of a aha,
And actually, there were some names that came up of different people. I think they're mostly women. We'll put them in the show notes that focus specifically on this issue and working with companies. One's called the Body Activist, one's called the Gorgeous Agency, and one's called Body Equity Alliance. I'll have Rachel put those in the show notes. But if you're at a if you're a person of influence and power, especially in HR,
Right.
especially HR in the wellness space, consider having a conversation, take a look at their assets, start to think about it.
Sorry. I also, can I suggest too that leaders think about office design, because I think some of the trends towards like these minimalist offices and use of space are actually very difficult. People of size, whether it's weight or height, like imagine like being on an airplane, right? Somewhat uncomfortable for people of different shapes, sizes, and abilities. Offices are starting to feel many offices are starting to feel a lot like airplanes, right? Like you're cramped into these very small carrels,
shared spaces,
hoteling, sort of lack of privacy, just very sort of, just modular furniture or sort of modernist furniture. Like they're not comfortable for all body types. And I can see how that to me has been, I have been turned off by offices simply because of like the setup or the furniture or whatever. And I'm not talking like they'll go ergonomic all day, but I'm sorry if I don't have enough room to put my elbows out, or like, I'm sitting on a chair, like my butt cheeks are falling off of, like that's not a comfortable thing. And so I think inclusivity and design is really important. Bathroom stalls, they've gotten so fucking small. Like you can't get in or out wearing a coat. And I'm a size 10 or 12. Like I'm like a size 10 to 12.
You're an average woman.
You know how hard it is to get in and out of a bathroom stall? It's hard. The damn doors swing in. Like, I don't know. I can't do it.
Especially if you have a suitcase.
Can we make bathrooms just a little more inclusive? Yeah. I'm not talking handicap accessible. I'm just talking regular bathrooms, regular people. But design can be inclusive.
I like that. The other thing that I read that they suggested, which is just super stupid simple, but it was find people, find your tribe to talk about these things, whether that's work colleagues, friend colleagues, a mix of both. Kind of don't wait for like a systemic change, right? Like it's important to talk about, like you telling your stories, like how many people are sitting on feelings and stories that they think it was just them, and come to find out is other people. So that like that support system. And I think with the emergence of mental health being sort of top priority, and all of these companies focused on mental health, it'd be really interesting. And I know we have listeners too in the mental health space. How are you putting this into your plan? Because the data is really, really powerful that shows that these programs are actually having a major negative consequence on the state of people's mental health. And so I just think that that's such an important, whether you're at a conference or within your company or associations, like in the mental health space, that is just so active and sort of trying to reinvent how they support people. This has to be part of the conversation.
Yeah. And I will give myself credit that one of my jobs a few jobs ago, when I was basically the COO of a very large global development nonprofit, I remember like my first week, I fly off to Ghana to meet the team in Ghana. And I'm jet lagged as all hell. I'm also, I'm not the oldest, I'm not old, but I'm also not young. And there's a lot of young people there. And the activity was that we were all going on a hike, and like this hike involved rappelling down the side of a mountain. First of all, nobody told me. Second of all, I'm in Africa, rappelling down the side of a mountain with some very adventurous, lovely people. And this was their like idea. And then there was like some kind of like kumbaya moment at the bottom. And then we had to go back up. I had this moment of being like, we can't turn the workplace into like an asylum for the trendiest shit. Because you know what? I definitely had some moments as the COO, chief HR officer, that I was like, had I known that this was happening, like, I would have been all over the risk profile, right? But also just the inclusivity of it. Like, okay, so in order to be the COO of that company, I had to be a young, fit person who could rappel down a mountain in Ghana on no sleep. Did I do it? Sure. But is that is that just a cool story that I get to tell? Or is that really telling us something about the way that people are operating? And I personally think it's not just corporate America. I think there's a lot of organizations out there, the cooler than yours, particularly a lot of like these trendy, cool nonprofits and all this stuff. They're doing really cool stuff in the world that are actually make it really hard for people to feel a part of because they don't necessarily have the profile to do all of the activities that are part of what it means to be engaged and to be fully subscribed to the mission or the culture of these organizations. So, if your welcome event is hiking down a mountain in Ghana, you might want to rethink that. I don't know. There might be other things you can do.
It's just like if anybody ever put me on a corporate retreat where you had to climb that fucking rope like we did in gym class that I never, ever could climb. Like, I like that just brings back all the feelings.
Yep. I don't want to say I'm anti anything physical, but like I am really against forced sports of any kind as bonding experiences. I know, like people love these ropes courses and trust falls and all that stuff. I don't know. I feel like it's a trend that maybe needs to be more optional than not. Like, I think there's other ways to bring people together that are inclusive of all types. And I think people who are other abled probably feel quite similarly. Right? Like we have to stop worrying about being cool. We have to start worrying about being inclusive, like really inclusive. It's not just about like cool is great if you're all the same. But if you actually want diversity and equity, you have to have inclusion. And inclusion means people of different shapes and sizes and types. So, let's be honest about that. And I'm not, railing against like the youth culture or whatever. It's just that, things are trendy. Things are awesome. Like go get Ozempic. Everything will be great. I don't think that's the answer. So I actually feel like this is a story about, I'm someone who faces these biases every day. Sometimes I notice and sometimes I don't. But I think a lot of people are probably like that and probably have had these experiences and also not only want to know, don't want to think about, how you work through them, but they also want to think about, how do you lead so that you're not creating your own environment like this yourself? I also think one thing, Erin, is that conversation is important. Like, ask the people that you're working with or doing things with, like, if they feel comfortable doing certain things. Like, is this a comfortable space? Is this a comfortable environment? Like, do I want to participate in this? Because we also shouldn't assume that people can't do things, right? Because they're a certain size. Right. I can do a shit ton of stuff that people would be surprised at, like deadlifting twice my body weight. People would probably be surprised about that, right? I'm a fit person. I think that we have to continue to have those conversations and not make quick judgments on what people can or can't do, but also what they feel comfortable doing, what they want to do, what they find to be encouraging and exciting and collaborative. Like, And
I think that's a really, really important point because we have this whole conversation about this at the same time. To your point, one, you can't assume they can't. And we also, like with anything, you don't want to swing the pendulum 180 degrees. And, I am a big fan of being fit and healthy, watching my parents stay active and how much it's done and others in my family not as active and their health. And so, and I think we'd love to hear, I think this is one topic. It's like very much a ... We'd love to hear you in our Facebook group, the Because Podcast Facebook group, if you're not part of it. Cause this is a topic that's sort of hot right now, but fresh and new and controversial. I can see all different angles. So
right. And we have personal we have personal experience with it, but it doesn't mean that we have the answers or that we can't be educated. Wait, we are not those people who are like, we have to be right. To go back to what I was saying earlier, like, we're not living in a world where like you're wrong and I'm right. And
the podcast is not all about being right.
Right. That does not make this podcast valuable because we say that we're right. We are willing to be schooled and educated. This is a platform for conversation. This was just, this was just a hot topic of du jour and real in our world. So, I hope people will engage with it. Here's to celebrating who we are.
Yes.
All shapes, sizes, and forms.
Cheers.
Cheers. Night. Friends, do you have other friends? Are they adults? Are they out in the world somewhere? Please, please, please invite them to listen to our podcast.
Okay, dude, you sound like a late night, like 2 a.m. infomercial. Basically what she's saying is our love language is ratings, reviews, and sharing the podcast. We'd love nothing more. And if you would do that.